Thanks for watching tonight. America is still buzzing over the Supreme Court's landmark civil rights ruling on same-sex marriage. On Friday, same-sex marriage became legal nationwide. Sunday marked gay pride parades and celebrations across this country. Roughly 2 million people flooded the streets of New York for the city's annual gay pride parade. 1 million people gathered in downtown San Francisco for the 45th annual pride celebration and parade. Meanwhile, not everyone wants to be on the correct side of history. Republican reaction to the court's ruling has been pouring in. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas said that the Obamacare and the same-sex rulings represent some of the darkest 24 hours in our nation's history. Earlier today, Cruz suggested retention elections for Supreme Court justices.
20 states have adopted retention elections. Now, they're rarely used, but they're a check when judges abuse their authority and violate the Constitution. And if you're, one of the things Justice Scalia talks about, you've got 9 lawyers. They're all from Harvard or Yale. There are no Protestants on the court. There are no evangelicals on the court. The elites on the court look over much of this country as flyover country. They think that our views are simply parochial and don't deserve to be respected. And Justice Scalia pointed out, what a crazy system to have the most important issues of our day decided by unelected lawyers.
The Reverend Mike Huckabee, and former governor of Arkansas, said Christians might take part in civil disobedience over the ruling.
So are you calling for civil disobedience?
I don't think a lot of pastors and Christian schools are going to have a choice. They either are going to follow God, their conscience, and what they truly believe is what the Scripture teaches them, or they will follow civil law. They will go the path of Dr. Martin Luther King, who in his brilliant essay, The Letters from a Birmingham Jail, reminded us, based on what St. Augustine said, that an unjust law is no law at all. And I do think that we're going to see a lot of pastors who will have to make this tough decision. You're going to see it on the part of Christian business owners.
Donald Trump says he's for traditional marriage, but as Jake Tapper pointed out, Trump's own record with marriage isn't very traditional.
I'm traditional marriage. It is changing rapidly.
But what do you say to a lesbian who's married or a gay man who's married who says, Donald Trump, what's traditional about being married 3 times?
Well, they have a very good point. But, I've been a very hard-working person. I have a great marriage. I have a great wife now. And my 2 wives were very good. And I don't blame them. But I was working, maybe like you, 22 hours a day.
I'm not asking you to explain your divorces.
I know. I'm just saying I blame myself because my business was so powerful for me.
For more, let me bring in Congressman Mark Pocan of Washington, Tobias Wolff, a law professor at the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and also with us tonight, Mike Rogers of rawstory.com. Congressman, we'll start with you first. Have we seen the definition of traditional marriage in this country now erode? What's the future going to be like with this ruling for the United States?
Well, I think we've seen the definition of marriage match our Constitution, which is equality for all. And now anyone, gay or straight, can get married and have equal access to the law under the eyes of the Constitution. So this is a good thing. This is a very positive decision. And if you support family and traditional values, this is a strong decision for family and traditional values.
Tobias, many people like Ted Cruz are arguing that this ruling from the Supreme Court violates the Constitution. Your response to that?
Well, Senator Cruz is a very educated man. He's an experienced Supreme Court advocate. But on this topic, it has to be said he is being deliberately dishonest, and he's being quite unprincipled. He's being dishonest when he talks about this issue in relation to other civil rights issues, and fails to recognize, for example, that the same kind of arguments about religious objections to equal treatment of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people have been seen in past disputes over equal treatment of racial minorities or of women. He knows that history, and he's simply pretending it doesn't exist. And he's unprincipled when he waves his hands and invokes a lot of rhetoric about the undemocratic Supreme Court, because this decision is one that he happens not to like. When the Supreme Court strikes down a law like, for example, the campaign finance reform, that he thinks the Supreme Court got the right decision. You don't hear anything about undemocratic values there. So the senator is really not showing himself in a very good light.
Mike Rogers, it's like Ted Cruz doesn't like the outcome, obviously, so let's have elections. What do you make of that? I mean, I can't imagine Ruth Bader Ginsburg going out raising money to be reelected on the Supreme Court. I mean, there's something really wrong with this picture across the board. Plus, you throw in Citizens United, and you'd have you-know-who buying the Supreme Court. I mean, what does this look like, Mike?
It looks like sheer insanity, Ed. And what's interesting is I always say folks like my friend Representative Pocan or folks like Tobias, a University of Pennsylvania lawyer, are so able to maintain such a measured attitude in the face of absolute insanity. I don't know where this man comes from. This is a man who himself has a law degree. This is a man who, as you say, they are purposely misleading the American people. And I want to stand with him. Any pastor in America that in their religious capacity does not want to marry a couple of men or women, I'll stand there right with them. And he knows that. He knows that, and he's pushing the envelope, and he'll twist his words. And unfortunately, a lot of people will buy into it, so they'll buy into that hate, coming along and saying, my pastor will be forced to do this or that, when that's patently untrue.
And Mike Rogers, what do you think of Mike Huckabee saying that Christians might practice civil disobedience and putting in Martin Luther King's name and that history, that angle to it? What do you make of that?
Well, when I hear Mike Huckabee invoke Martin Luther King Jr., I literally want to burst out laughing. Go back, Mike, and look at the people from your party and your group of folks in the political spectrum and tell me what they thought of Martin Luther King. Tell me what they thought of the Montgomery bus boycott. And at the time, what did they think of the letter from the Birmingham jail? We know the answer, Ed. They were on the wrong side of history then, and they're on it again now.
And if I recall the Confederate flag controversy and conversation that's going on in this country, I think that Dr. Martin Luther King and Mike Huckabee would certainly have differences of opinion there. Congressman, have you heard any Republicans saying that the right thing on same-sex marriage ruling?
No, most of what we've heard is the circus that's also known as the Republican primary. And you think about it, Ed, you got to decide, do you want to try to get 1 or 2 extra % of vote in Iowa in a primary with a very small number of people who this is an important issue to, or do you want to be a mainstream candidate enough that the 60% of the people in the country who support marriage equality, that you're a candidate for the general election? So you've got to find that balance. So right now, they all realize unless you win the primaries, you won't be the general election candidate. But I've watched Scott Walker flip-flop. I've watched all these other people have these statements. The bottom line is, are they really presidential candidates, or are they just primary people and going to pander to that 1 or 2% of extremists?
And Tobias, the Republicans always rely on states' rights. Well, the people in their own state should be making these decisions. This takes away that argument across the board. So where does this leave the Republicans constitutionally at this point? They're somewhat at a crossroads. And so what are they going to resort to? Well, now they want to hold the retention elections for the Supreme Court. I mean, how else can you read it?
Well, let me say a few words about some of the real policies that we're seeing on the ground that are being pushed by Republican legislatures. We see efforts in the state of North Carolina to tell public officials, not pastors, not private business owners, but public employees, that they can opt out of issuing marriage licenses if they have religious objections to doing so. We saw the Attorney General of the state of Texas just issue an opinion yesterday that suggested that public employees can single out same-sex couples and refuse to provide services just to them if they have religious objections to doing so. Now, I think that we can have a good faith conversation about protecting the rights of churches and pastors, which no one disagrees with, about how we should enforce anti-discrimination principles in the marketplace. But when you're talking about people coming to the offices of their government that they fund with their tax money and being told that they can be sent to another window because a clerk or a judge doesn't want to serve people like them, that, for me, is anti-democratic.
Congressman Mark Pocan, Tobias Wolff, and Mike Rogers. Gentlemen, thanks so much for the conversation tonight. I appreciate you being